Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Season 1, Episode 1, The Wrong Path. Episode in a nutshell is just a brief summary of exactly what happens within this episode. Hercules' family is killed by Hera, so he goes after Hera's 7 temples to destroy them, while Aeolus takes up the task of defeating the she-demon when Hercules refuses to, and he ends up getting turned to stone until Hercules has a change of heart and comes and does defeat the she-demon which causes Aeolus to be restored. So after rewatching the episode, we then rank the episode on 2 separate lists. The first list is a mostly objective ranking list, which is absent of emotion, however, bias and judgment still do apply to it. So it's only mostly objective. And then the personal ranking list, which of course is based on my personal opinion as well as how I felt during the episode while watching it. So it is the emotion-based list. So as always on this channel, we start with our mostly objective rank values, and I've highlighted those I felt applied to this particular episode. First off, we have the single episode supporting character introduction, which was Aegina, and that is worth 1 point. And then we also have multi-episode supporting character introduction, which is Alcmene, and that's worth 2 points. Then we have our multi-season main character introductions, which were Hercules and his sidekick Aeolus, which is 4 points each. And then we also, on the positive side, have the premise establishment, which is standard for the first episode of any of the series that we do, and that is worth 3 points. And obviously, the premise that is established in this episode is Hercules has lost his family, therefore, he has no reason to remain in his hometown anymore. At first, he goes on a grief-fueled revenge trip trying to destroy Hera's temples until eventually he decides that, or rather, Aegina, who is a slave who was being held captive in one of the temples for stealing food once she escaped her owners, basically, as they travel to Istar together, she kind of helps him to see that his revenge-fueled rampage is not what his family would have wanted had they still been alive, and that he should, instead of going after revenge, do something that would honor his family, his wife and children, and that's how he removes himself from the wrong path, rights himself back onto the right path of justice, defeats the she-demon, and then at the end of the episode is set up to basically he doesn't have a home to go back to anymore, so he's going to now travel the world and do as much good as he can with the life that he has going forward. And then eventually one day he will be then proud to meet his family once again. And this is where we start our legendary journeys per the title of the series. And so all of those together bring us up to 14 points. However, there is one negative to the episode, and that is that they really failed to emotionally impact the audience with the death of the family, which should be something that is very impactful. Like that should be something that like renders somebody emotional. But it was just so basically we don't meet the family. We just basically have him and Aeolus at the start of the episode getting into a bit of a bar fight. And then he goes home and his wife's sleeping. And then next thing we know, fireball, ashes. Then he goes to look for his kids and we see burning toys, showing that they, of course, had also been hit by a fireball sent by Hera. And then it basically then it just like time skips to the next morning and he's just kind of sitting on a stone outside of his house, looking off into space until Aeolus comes over and is like, "Hey, you're not at work. We got to get to work." And he's like, "They're all gone." Just, they're gone. They can't come back. Hera did it. And Aeolus is like, "Oh man, that sucks for you. Well, good luck. I'm gonna go get to work. See you around. Or do you need my support?" And Hercules is like, "No, I don't need your support." So then Aeolus heads off. And it's just like so non emotional. And then he does have a bit of like a flashback. You see but like it's a flashback of like 2 minutes where you see, the wife smiling, the kids smiling, him lifting up his daughter, him kissing his wife, like just like these little cute little moments. And they are cute. But like I don't feel his grief as like I don't feel his grief. We obviously haven't met these characters or gotten attached to them outside of a 2-minute flashback. Apart from the whole general fact that when somebody loses their family, it is sad, there is no like actual feeling involved with regards to the loss. And because of that, that's a -3 points. However, as is pretty much universally the case with the first episode of a series, because there's so many character introductions, it just raises the score up. So even with that negative, we still have a 10 out of 10 episode for our mostly objective ranking this time. And so in our season 1 ranking so far, we have all of one episode. So this episode, The Wrong Path, is in first place. So now we get to the personal ranking. Now, I've already noted kind of how there's not a lot of. So, I'm trying to think of the nicest way to say it. The acting is. So, this is a very good series. Obviously, it goes on for 6 seasons. We like the characters, we like the storylines, we know that it does get better, but I find this with Hercules and then also with like its kind of companion franchise mate Xena as well. Some of the acting can be a little bit um cardboard. Like the type of acting that you did in elementary school when you had were given a script by the teacher and stood around in a circle and were just reading out the lines without, too much behind them. I hope that it's just because it's the first episode that it kind of is coming off so stiff and unemotional, and that it will hopefully get better as the series progresses. I mean, the series has basically what you would expect from the time period. Like it's a TV budget, low special effects. Like they weren't very advanced at that time, trying to do a mythological show that would require a lot of effects. And it shows, but it's acceptable for the time period. I want to be clear, like I'm not saying that it's bad effects because given the time period, given what the budget of a TV show would have been at that time, this is pre like high budget TV shows like Game of Thrones and such. This was just like a standard show on regular television. I think the effects are what you would expect. The acting, because it is the first episode, everybody's new to their roles. And I'm hoping that that's what the stiff acting is. But I mentioned in the objective ranking list, it literally was like, you just lost your family, and you gave more emotion during the bar fight to open the show than you did at losing your family. And then literally the next day after like the fireball comes down, he basically, like I said, is just sitting outside on a wall outside his house, like on a stone outside his house. Aeolus comes over. He tells him pretty blandly, like, "Hey, my family, they're gone." Hera did it. And then Aeolus is like I said, "Dude, that's so sad. Need my help with anything?" And Hercules is like, "Now that they're gone, I just want revenge on Hera. I'm gonna go destroy her. I'm not going to put you in the middle of this. This is my fight. I don't need your support here. Aeolus then goes, okay, I accept that because, you know, I know that you would tell me if you needed me, so I'm going to go off and, as we later find out, go back to the bar that they had fought in the night before. And then Hercules basically goes inside and he's like breaking all of his furniture up, which fair play. I mean, obviously, you're angry, you are more hateful than grieving at the time because you know who's responsible, so you've got your revenge mind on, not your grief mind on, and you're just, breaking everything. And then this, of course, is when Lycus comes in, Lycus of Ister, who is from a town called Ister that is dealing with a she-demon, which is a half snake, half beautiful girl creature that has been turning all of the boys to stone. But he doesn't really get the opportunity to explain this because he comes in asking Hercules for help, and Hercules says, "Oh, if you had come earlier, I'd have helped you, but right now, I'm not interested. I've got my own things going on. Get lost." So, Lycus does. And then he goes to the bar, and that's where we find Aeolus, who is at the bar. And basically, Lister, just to all of the people in the bar, starts bad-mouthing Hercules like, this guy, he's supposed to be a hero, and here he is denying somebody who needs help like an a-hole. What was he thinking? How dare he do this to me and my people? Like, we wanted help. And then Aeolus basically is like, hey, 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 this guy just lost his family last night. Hera did it. And It's just like, so maybe I shouldn't have come to him for help. And Aeolus is like, no, you should have come to him for help. If it was any other day, he would definitely have helped you. But you know what? Since he's not gonna, I'm gonna help you. I'll go with you to the village and I will slay this sea demon for you. And so they head off on their quest. We then have Hercules having broken all of his house's furniture, deciding to set it all on fire, and he goes to his mother. Now, when he meets his mother, he is pissed off not just at Hera, but also at Zeus, because Zeus is his dad and doesn't even have the decency to come and tell him why his wife has gone and killed all of his family. And then when he gets to his mother, she, of course, at first very sympathetic. Come inside, my child. Let me comfort you. You need to grieve. You need to not be revengeful. Not revengeful, sorry. Vengeful. And he goes inside, and then she says, well, he didn't talk to you, but your dad did come and talk to me. And turns out he cheated again on his wife. And she was so angry that she decided to kill your wife in revenge. Which, honestly, if anybody knows anything about like mythology, it is a soap opera. This is totally the type of thing you would expect. So, no complaints there. But essentially that's the motivation. And Zeus, of course, was so terrible about this. If he was mortal, well, he'd want to die, but he's not, so moot point. But Hercules does make the time to say that he does in fact believe that his dad is dead to him now, and he wants nothing more to do with him. And in fact, he is going to go and destroy all of Hera's temples, which she has 7 of them. We then get kind of a break from that drama, which again, like, I'm putting life into it really, but like the acting is so stiff. Like I just don't believe he's grieving for anybody. Like we didn't get it. Like he's not even crying. His eyes aren't even red rimmed. Like he's angry, but like if there's any time that a manly man would cry, I would imagine it would be when he loses his wife and child, like his children. Like I feel like that is an okay time to cry. Or at least be red rimmed on the eyes to make it look like you are fighting the crying rather than just being like going around kind of blandly saying, "Oh, they're dead. Tara did it." On and on and on. Although I was kind of amused by that at the same time because the idea was so stiff. I was kind of like, wow, the time period differences. Anyways, moving on. We're getting a break from Hercules and we're going back to Aeolus, who is, of course, walking with Lycus towards Lister. And Aeolus is doing some bragging. He's bragging about how, he and Hercules are besties. They've gone on so many adventures. They fought the Titans together. They defeated a Hydra together, all off screen. And then they come across this gigantic log that's blocking the road, kind of like at an angle. And Aeolus is like, oh, I'll move this out of the way. He fails. He's not strong. He's not Hercules. So Lister, or not, Lycus then decides to say that, well, Hercules probably could have moved it. And Aeolus is like, you're right. Hercules would have saved his energy. And so he decides to go under the log instead. And I'm like, great comedic break. I mean, it's been amusing so far, but this one I think was actually supposed to be funny. And then, of course, we see them arrive at Ister, and there's the she-demon who's wearing like this big, flowy white skirt to hide the fact that she has a snake's butt for her lower half. And she is luring a young boy, Orestes, well, not young boy, young man, Orestes, and turns him to stone with the tip of her snake tail, which comes out from under the dress. We then check back in with Hercules, who has knocked down a shrine on his way to the temple. He arrives at the temple and he decides he's going to destroy it. Of course, there are guards or priests that are basically guarding it, while inside we have Angia, who is basically tied down to a stone slab. And Hercules comes in, beats up the guards, decides that rather than save the girl, the damsel that's on the stone slab, he's going to take the time to knock over a peacock statue because it's very offensive, being that it is one of Hera's symbols. Now, on a personal standpoint, like on a personal note, peacocks are my favorite bird. I love peacocks. And I'm willing to forgive most things if it has a peacock picture on it because it's like, they're beautiful birds. They're like the most beautiful birds. So I kind of was disappointed that we destroyed the peacock statue. But that's neither here nor there to the story. Anyways, eventually he does come back and decide to free her, fights his way out, finds out that she was a slave, she ran away, she stole food, that's why she was in the temple being punished for her crimes. And he decides right then and there that he's going to free her. As she was not his slave, I do not know that he actually has the power to do that, but he is a demigod, so divine providence, I guess. Anywho, we continue. And basically, she's like, hey, you've just saved me. Take responsibility for that. Can you take me back to my hometown? It's Ister, which is, as you might recall, where Lycus and Aeolus are heading to right now. And he decides that because it's on the way to another one of her 7 temples, Hera's 7 temples, he'll take her along with him. And they kind of time skip. We then see them having kind of like a conversation about how, in a moment of weakness, he supposedly off screen told her about his family. And this is where she brings up, oh, you should have, instead of being revenge driven, you should honor their memory, do something they would have appreciated or wanted you to do. And she doesn't think that going around and destroying temples is what they would have wanted him to do. Uh, and basically, she's the one who kind of cautions him and says, "Oh, you're on the wrong path. Maybe we should try to do something else." And he's, of course, like not interested at this point. But then he kind of thinks about it some more, flashes back again to his family, and decides that, you know what? Maybe she's right after all. A very quick turnaround, but he's like, maybe you're right. Maybe I should not be going on this revenge kick. Maybe I should, in fact, tell people. In fact, I recall that just after my family died, this man came by my house and wanted help. And Wouldn't you know it? He was from Ister. Since we're going there anyways, maybe he'll want my help after all. Let's continue on our journey. We then, of course, cut back to where Aeolus is arriving at the cave that's shaped like a snake's head, or basically like the mouth of the cave is the mouth of a snake that's carved into the mountainside. And he enters to face the she-demon, and apart from like some spinning of a sword that he has been to be carrying, he does nothing. He gets turned to stone pretty much immediately. I don't even think he sees her. I'm pretty sure he got like hit from behind and is just like uselessly stoned now. He did not do much. But I feel like he was the comedic relief. This is why he's the sidekick, not the hero. I hate to say it, but some people are born to be sidekicks, and Aeolus is one of them. Much like Gabrielle and Xena, which we will be doing later on this channel as well. But basically, at this point, we now have Hercules arriving at Ister, and we find out from a cloaked figure, which Aegina calls Thoas. Um, Thoas is basically saying, "Hey, this village gone to the shits now. We are done. Everybody's dead. Actually, I'm sorry for your loss, Hercules." And Hercules is like, "Oh, I didn't know that my wife and daughter's not my wife and daughter, my wife and children's news had reached so fast." And Thoas is like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but Aeolus is dead." Just throwing that out there for you. Oops. And of course, this is something that, again, we don't get much grief, at least not openly, from Hercules. Hercules decides that he's still going to help out and he knows that he can win. And he and uh, what was his name again? I keep mixing up Lycus and Ister. I keep wanting to call it Lister, like combine the two. Anyways, Lycus shows Hercules to the cave where Aeolus's statue has somehow magically left the cave. I don't know if the she-demon put him there or if somebody went in and retrieved him and was allowed to bring him out, but he's sitting at the opening of the cave now, not inside of it. And Lycus asks how Hercules, like, does Hercules actually think he can win? Or how does he know that he can win? And Hercules just kind of shrugs and says, "I'm undefeated," and decides to go into the cave. And he and the she-demon first tries to flirt with him because he's a good-looking man. And he, of course, is not interested. So then she's like, "Okay, abandon the honey trap. We're going gorilla." And she goes into the caves and keeps sneak attacking him. However, throughout these sneak attacks, he does in fact trick her into tying her tail around a column. However, this doesn't actually help because snakes' bodies move very independently, and so even though she does have a tie in her tail, the tip of the tail is still able to move towards him, and at the last second he dodges and she ends up stabbing herself and turning herself into stone. And once she is turned to stone, all of the other stone statues that she created magically come back to life, including Aeolus, and Aeolus basically reconnects with his bestie and says that, "You know what? While I was a statue, I was dead. I was on the other side. I saw your wife. I saw your kids. They're happy, doing well. The only thing that's wrong with them now, that they're not in this evil world, is the fact that they miss you. But of course, there's nothing they can do about that. And they don't want you to die yet. They know there's still so much good you have to accomplish." And that is when Hercules is like, "Yep, that's right. I do have a lot to accomplish. I understand. I'm glad they're safe. I'm gonna go on a journey. I'm gonna go on a trip. I don't have a home anymore. I burned it to the ground." And Aeolus is kind of like, "Okay, bestie, I understand that you have to go on this journey, that you're not coming home. See ya. And Hercules walks off. Aeolus stays standing there. Now, we as rewatchers know the future, and we know that Aeolus does tag along with Hercules, so why they had him leaving him there, I'm unsure. But overall, it was a very amusing episode. I really enjoyed it. But again, there were some issues. There was the very monotone line delivery from a lot of the side characters. Like I said, like the reading off a script in like a little circle in like elementary school. Like there's no emotion there. It's not really like I am believing that you're feeling what you're saying. It's kind of like, do you have a teleprompter behind like just off screen here? Because it sounds like you're reading something. Mm, You know? Then there's of course the fact that like Hercules is the main character, and one, he gives up on his revenge real quick. Two, it doesn't seem like his family dying really bothered him much at all. At least I, as an audience member, did not feel that way. Three, rather than it being his best friend that puts him on the right path, it's this random woman that he saves that's there for like a little bit. Though she is a very likable character. She's very bubbly, very outgoing. And then we get the comedic relief a little bit from Aeolus and his regrettably, I can't be super nice. In this episode, he is pretty much useless, apart from a little bit of comedic relief. Like, he doesn't do really anything. Like, he tries. And brownie points for trying, but he doesn't do anything. He even dies temporarily. However, having said all that, I know it's not the worst episode out there. I'm pretty sure the acting will get better. I find with most series, when we first start, the acting is a little bit awkward in the first episodes, like the first few episodes, because obviously the actors and actresses are getting used to their roles and kind of learning their characters, building their characters, getting a feel for the characters. So I have grace and I forgive that. And I did enjoy it. I feel like there's going to be a lot more episodes coming that are going to be way better. I also feel like there's probably going to be a few that are worse. And overall, I feel like I found it average. Like it was very amusing and entertaining, but just in a general sense, it was a bit of an average episode. And I'm giving it a 5 out of 10, which does put it into first place because it is currently the only episode in this series so far. And that now brings us to our final segment, which is our series ranking overall. Now, the series ranking, of course, is going to be ranking each of the 6 seasons against each other, and we are going to figure out which seasons are better based on our percentage, which is scored based off of each episode's number score when we rank them. So for this first episode, on our mostly objective ranking, we had 10. And then on the personal ranking, I ranked it a 5. It's out of 130 as there are 13 episodes within the season, and the maximum score that each episode can receive is 10. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Season 1, Episode 1, The Wrong Path. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.